Stool samples. Don't do that. I love how I just screamed stool at the end of the show last week. Welcome into Hoop Streams, guys. We're not going to be talking about poop today. Christine Williamson, and I have two friends with me, Tim Bontemps, Nick Friedell. Nick's still laughing.
We're off to a roaring
He's
start.
like, not okay.
We're off to a roaring start already, Christine.
Like, Nick still cannot get over the fact that Gary said that last week.
I mean, I just heard it, and I can't get over he said it, and I wasn't here last week. So God bless both of you for making it through that one.
Yeah, no, Nick's probably going to be out for a little bit. You guys good? You guys good? Feeling good? Going into
feeling great.
This NBA
feeling great.
Evening. Okay, good. We have a lot to get to. We're going to talk a little bit about Ja Morant. We're going to make the perfect NBA playoff matchups. But we're going to start with the Knicks winning streak. Isn't it weird that we're talking about the Knicks? I feel like it is.
Well, Christine, by the way.
Yes.
9-game winning streak for the Knicks. Last night, Nick Friedell comes to his first Knick game. What happens?
They lost.
They lost.
Why did you do that? Okay, so they did lose to the Hornets last night, but the Knicks were just a game shy of winning 10 in a row, so the squad has won 11 in its last 13 games. Not awful, but Nick, maybe don't go to any more Knicks games. So I'm going to start with you here. Are you at all surprised by how the Knicks have been winning?
I am, to a point, because I didn't think they had enough talent to string this many games together. But Timmy B, the thing that scares me about the Knicks, and I watched it a lot of years in Chicago with Tibbs and those Bulls teams. This team is talented. They have strung together a nice stretch here, but they get to the postseason and they just don't have enough to get through the first round and beyond. You have seen this Knicks team a lot more over the last couple months. Why do you think this group would be different than a lot of those Chicago teams we've seen in the past?
I'm not sure that they're a lot different than those teams, Nick, because if the question is, and I think we might get to it later, are they as good as Milwaukee? Are they as good as the Celtics? Are they as good as the Sixers? No, they're not as good as those teams. But the thing that's different about this Knicks team to me, even than the one from a couple years ago, the first Tibbs team to make the playoffs, was that this team, it's all the pieces fit perfectly together, and that's because of the arrival of Jalen Brunson. You look at how all these guys are lined up now. You got Julius Randle playing the best ball of his career. You got guys like Emmanuel Quickly and Josh Hart coming off the bench in perfect roles. Everybody fits in where they need to be, and I think the Knicks, with the group they've got together now, I think they have the best foundation to build on moving forward than any team they've had since they went to the finals in 1999, because they not only have this group of players that are good now, they've also got all these draft picks that they didn't spend on a Donovan Mitchell trade this summer to now go get the guy that you're talking about, the kind of star player that can make them good enough to play with the best teams in the league. But those Carmelo teams, they were sort of in the same place as the Knicks now, but they didn't have the ability to add anything else, right? It was like Carmelo, whatever they could get around him.
Carmelo and friends.
Yes, but it wasn't that team.
But they weren't good enough friends.
When you covered those Bulls teams back then, right? Like the Knicks never had the ability to contend with the Miami Heat. Back then. They were never going to be able to beat or even go toe-to-toe, really, with those LeBron Heat teams. The Knicks now are one real player away from being able to compete with the best teams in the league, and they have the ability to go get that kind of player now, too. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about the Knicks, even if Nick did start to curse them.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say that. It's also, I realized as I was saying it, I was like, why does it feel so weird as I'm saying this? It's because your name is Nick, and we're talking about the Knicks. Nick ruined the Knicks win streak. But let's take a look at their last 10 games really fast. Before they lost to the Hornets last night, as I mentioned, a 9-game win streak. I'm going to ask you this, Tim. What has impressed you the most about their streak?
Just the foundation that this group has really built as a group together. And a lot of it comes down to the way they've played with their second unit on the court. They obviously got Josh Hart at the trade deadline. He has fit in perfectly. You saw Emmanuel Quickly. I was at that double overtime game in Boston on Sunday. One of the best games I've seen all season anywhere. Yeah, it was just a phenomenal game. Quickly was bouncing around in double overtime like it was the start of the game. I mean, he was the best player on the court, had a ton of energy. But like I said earlier, just the pieces all fit. They go 9 or 10 deep. They play really fast. Tom has always been a pretty deliberate coach in terms of his pace of play. They're playing way faster this year. They've won the last couple games without Jalen Brunson, or at least won the game on Sunday in Boston without Jalen Brunson. So I just really like where the Knicks are going. And again, it's for a team that's always been rushing to do the quick fix for 2 decades now. Oh, let's go trade for Steph Marbury. Let's trade for Steve Francis. Let's go get Carmelo Anthony, then let's try to, immediately build around him. They've never really had a sustainable model for success, they finally have that now. And that, to me, is what's been impressive about this, is it seems sustainable. It doesn't seem like a flash in the pan.
Nick, you agree?
I do. The difference is they still need to find that star.
That's right.
And whoever that star may be, we're going to find out over the next few months, maybe the next couple of years, guys. But the key to me is all the structure that you need out of a Tibbs team to play defense, to play for each other, to know where to be on the defensive end of the floor and how that springs the offense and gets it rolling, that is in place. And Timmy B, you have made this point many times. You watch the Knicks. Jalen Brunson has made everybody
it's all about Jalen Brunson.
Into a role that they fit better than we've seen in a while. Once you sign him and you continue getting these younger players to develop and gaining more confidence in themselves, there's a reason to believe in the short term the Knicks can be good, finishing this season, and in the long term their future looks pretty bright.
No question.
Okay, so I like that you said that the Knicks need to find their star because you mentioned Jalen Brunson. Obviously, Julius Randle, he's been a bucket for them. He had that game winner over the Heat this weekend. But how would you stack him up among former Knicks star players like Carmelo Anthony and Amari Stoudemire? Nick?
He doesn't have that superstar quality. And that's the difference with Julius Randle. He came out of almost nowhere when he appeared 2 years ago, and everybody went, whoa, Julius Randle can still do this. We saw what happened last year. He just didn't play very well. He was disappointed at the lack of support he got at times. But to his credit, he's turned it back around. Randle is a hell of a player. To me, he's just not the type of number one star that you build around that you think can have a legit chance to win a title. Timmy B, you have watched him plenty through the years. What is it about this situation, especially this season, that you think is unlockable?
Well, not to really pound this into the ground, but it's the arrival of Jalen Brunson. That's really what's changed it. You mentioned last year. You go back to that series 2 years ago when they played the Atlanta Hawks in the first round. The Hawks pretty much gamed out how to guard Julius Randle. They completely frustrated him, took him out of his game, won that series, right? You go back to the next season, everybody kind of had the playbook. Here's how you stop Julius. He got frustrated. The crowd got on him when the team was disappointing. That obviously didn't go very well at all. Now you come into this season, Jalen Brunson's now the leader of the team. He's the face of the team after coming in and signing as a free agent. He's obviously basically Tom Thibodeau's son with as long as he's known him. And, with his family relationship with Rick Brunson, his dad, who's now on Tibbs' staff, he's known him literally since he was born. And he is a coach on the court, and he has just allowed everybody to slot into their role. And now Julius, like you said, Christine, he's been a bucket. Yeah. His job is to go get buckets. He doesn't have to worry about anything else. And when the Knicks are playing well, it's when Julius is going quick. Tibbs likes to say he never criticizes anybody publicly, but when he's talking about his team, when they're playing well, it's when guys are making quick decisions. And when guys are not quick to make quick decisions or sitting on the ball, that's when they struggle. When he's saying that, he's talking about Julius. So when the Knicks are playing well, so Julius is taking the ball, making a move, and attacking. When he's holding the ball, pounding into the ground, dribbling the air out of it, that's when the Knicks struggle. So, look, all this comes really, to me, down to the Jalen Brunson signing, him allowing everybody to fit in their role, and it's allowed Julius to get back to really playing, like Nick said, some of the best ball he's ever played.
Okay, so a lot of people, I like that we're talking about Brunson now because a lot of people would say that Brunson was snubbed for the All-Star game.
I'm one of them.
Okay, Tim, you agree with that? Nick,
Yeah.
You agree with that? Okay, so when you talk about Jalen Brunson, then do you feel like he was the best off-season acquisition across the league?
He fits what Tibbs wants with that team better than anybody else fits on that roster from where they were taken into. There was so much talk, guys, about Donovan Mitchell, and the Knicks wanted him, and certainly there are plenty of people in that Knicks organization that thought they were going to get him. Even Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland, with the elevation that group has made, doesn't look like he is cohesive as Jalen Brunson does in Tibbs' system with the pieces that he has around him with the Knicks.
No question. And I think this is really simple, Christine. He was the best offseason acquisition because he cost the least to get, right?
Yeah.
Like Donovan Mitchell is probably a little better player than Jalen Brunson. But it cost the Cavs a ton of draft picks and Larry Markkinen and these other pieces to go get Donovan Mitchell, right? The Knicks just had to sign him. They had cap space. They could just sign him. They could keep all these draft picks. They can go add more later. So to me, whether he's the single best player that was acquired by a team, he was clearly the best free agent acquired by a team. And the fact they didn't have to give up any of this future stuff, it sets them up to finally be in a position for the first time in literally a generation to be a legitimate championship contending team instead of one that's just got a great star player in Carmelo Anthony and not enough around him to be a real legitimate contender.
That makes sense. We'll talk a little bit more about the Cavs and the Knicks a little bit later because that'll be a good conversation. You guys are watching Hoop Streams. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and the ESPN app as we get ready for the Mavs take on the Pels. It's the fourth time and the final time these two teams will meet, with Dallas holding a 2-1 advantage in the season series, just 2.5 games separate. The two teams are in the standings with New Orleans. I don't know if people say, do people say New Orleans or New Orleans? I say New Orleans. Sometimes I say New Orleans.
No,
anyways.
I've heard that one too.
The Pels are currently holding the last spot in the play-in tournament out west. All right, guys, we have to talk about what's going on with the Grizzlies and Ja Morant because a lot has happened in the last few days. So let's take a quick look at the timeline so we can run through it before we talk about this Memphis team. So on Saturday, after a 113-97 loss to the Nuggets, Morant posted a video in the club showing a gun while others around him appear to be drinking. Later that day, the Grizzlies suspended Morant once news of the video surfaces. Then Morant released a statement taking accountability for his actions. We were told that the Colorado police were investigating, and then today, Colorado police announced that they have closed their investigation with no charges or crime against Ja Morant. And finally, the Grizzlies issued a statement as of 5:30 p.m. today saying Ja Morant will continue to remain away from the team for at least the next 4 games. So let's turn our attention to how this will affect the team on the court. Here are the current standings out west. Memphis sitting in third behind Sacramento, but the gap between them and the first place Nuggets is 7.5 games. They are actually closer to the Clippers, who are in 8th place and currently only 6 games behind the Grizzlies. So without Ja on the floor, you're losing 27.1 points and 8.2 assists. Tim, I'm gonna ask you this one. How is Memphis going to make up for that kind of production on the court?
Well, they're going to have to try to do it by committee, starting with Tyus Jones, who's maybe the best backup point guard in the league. When he's stepped in the lineup, he's putting up starter numbers. He's a guy that if he was on a lot of other teams, he would be the starting point guard. So certainly that helps. But you look at Ja Morant being out. You look at Brandon Clark, really talented, athletic, big for them, now out for the season after tearing his Achilles over the weekend. You know, Memphis was already a team that struggled to score in the half court, right? They're sort of like Tom's teams in Chicago with Derek. It's like they had to get out and run in transition to score, and they were going to win by grinding teams out on the defensive end of the court, right? That's the way they're going to win games. Well, now you take away that offensive engine, and it's sort of like that team, the non-Derek team after he tore his ACL, right? The team that was a mid-tier team in the Eastern Conference, made the playoffs the next year, won a series. Won a playoff series that next year against the Brooklyn Nets, but was not a team that was a real contender, right? And that's the thing. You take Ja Morant off the Grizzlies, they're going to still grind out wins. They're going to be competitive, but that ceiling is gone, and they're not the same level team, and there's really nothing the group can do to make up for that.
Christine, we've heard so much through the years about cutting off the head of a snake on an NBA team, and when you do that, you get yourself in really good shape if you're the opponent and you feel comfortable about being able to maintain what you want in your defensive game plan. That is what all these teams feel now. Nobody's saying that Memphis is not talented, that they still can't win games in the moment. What they're saying is you don't believe that they have a legitimate chance to get all the way through the West because they don't have Ja to lead the way and set the tone. When you're trying to take the step that Memphis is trying to take, and you're trying to go from a solid playoff team to a team that has a legit chance to win a title, you can't be having these gaps in time where your best player is not out there. And Christine, when you're Memphis and you had all this hype and all this hope going into the season, and now this happens, that's the thing that I'd be concerned about. Not that Ja may return at some point, it's that all the rhythm that was supposed to be there is now gone.
When you look at that game on Sunday, they played the Clippers on ESPN Sunday night. Memphis got out to a big 14, 15-point lead in the second half. What happened the final few minutes of that game? It was Kawhi Leonard and Paul George grabbed that game by the shirt and dragged it home for the Clippers, right?
Yeah.
And the Grizzlies had no answer. You know, Luke Kennard was getting some shots up. You know, Tyus tried to get some shots up. They just had no answer for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And when you get in the playoffs, as you guys both know, games are won and lost by those kinds of guys.
Your
Right.
stars
By Ja
have to do
Morant,
it.
your stars have to get you there at the end of the day. It's like we talked about the Knicks. The Knicks don't have that incandescent star at the top. The Grizzlies have one in Ja Morant when he's available. Obviously, right now, he's not.
Nick, you talked about how this team had so much hype, and one of the reasons that we were so high on this team and we enjoyed watching this team is because they're full of young guys that are super hungry. Steven Adams is the oldest player on their team. He's 29
By the way,
years old.
I saw that note when Luna sent the rundown. Like, Steven Adams feels like he's been around for 50
I know, he's
years.
only 29.
I would have lost so much money betting how old Steven Adams was.
Even like last year when we were talking about it, I'm like, the dude's 28.
I would 100% have bet he's over 30.
Yeah.
That honestly floored
It's
me.
his
when I saw
hair.
that.
It's because he has long hair. He has the nice full beard. He looks very
Well, he came in the
mature.
league looking like he was 28.
Exactly.
So, for sure.
Exactly.
caught up.
But when you think about
has caught
Taylor,
up.
the fact that they don't have old guys, they don't have that many vets, how is Taylor Jenkins going to keep this locker room together when they don't have that veteran presence?
They need one. I mean, this is a common theme, not just in Memphis, though, y'all. This is a common theme throughout the league. In the last 5 or 6 years, all those veterans that everybody felt like put a team together and was the voice for a younger group, the only guy who pops to mind is Udonis Haslem. He's been in Miami forever. He barely plays, but he is respected in the room. And when he speaks, people listen. So, Christine, the answer to the question in Memphis is they don't have that guy. And I would think after this episode, and we've seen other things happen throughout the last few years in the NBA, I wonder if GMs are going to take a step back and say, hey, do we just need the proverbial adult in the room? Mm-hmm. Is it worth it to fill a roster spot on a guy who may not play out there a lot on the floor, but in the locker room can be that voice that can bring everybody together and share his memories of what he's gone through in a league that has a lot of young players looking for guidance now?
Well, and the interesting thing about Memphis is, to go back to the beginning of the season, I talked to their GM, Zach Kleiman, multiple times during the year, and they were thrilled with having Danny Green around for just that reason. As a young team that's trying to advance, here's Danny Green, who's won several titles with multiple teams. I think he's won 3 or 4, with one with Spurs, one with Toronto, one with the Lakers, has been in the playoffs 1,000 times, has as much playoff experience as anybody in the NBA, is a great guy. Like, he was the kind of guy that you would want to have around your team, and they had to decide at the deadline, do we want to roll forward with him, or do we want to go try to get a guy in Luke Kennard that could potentially help us get some more offense because we have not been able to score enough in the half court? They obviously decided to make that trade and get Luke Kennard, but Danny Green was that kind of guy, and they were really excited about what he was giving them from that veteran mentor leadership type of role. Now the Grizzlies don't have that, and it's going to be very interesting as they try to navigate a lot of things right now. See how they navigate that.
Nick, you said that you think that they need a guy like UD on the sideline that's really just like a kind of a veteran presence, an older guy. Do you think that the Grizzlies should sign Carmelo Anthony?
It would help in that regard, but Christine, I think the impact that Carmelo could make if he were interested might be lost at this stage of the season. When you need a guy like Carmelo or any other veteran, you need him to build relationships throughout the year to be there when these type of moments hit. Mm-hmm. To do this now is just kind of putting a Band-Aid on what we've already seen occur. And I throw one more example out, guys, and I think it's important because we started the show talking about the New York Knicks. Who is the player in that room that all the young players continue to gravitate towards and have praised for being there for them, even though he's not playing at all? It's Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose has been that veteran in the room for a younger team that's trying to find its way. We've seen it in Miami. They've gone through their own struggles, but appear to be coming out of it. But, Christine, that's the issue for Memphis. It's too late now to have anybody come in at this point, given through what they've gone through, and expect them to make a big
Another
difference.
example of that is Blake Griffin in Boston, too. Similar thing. But again, like you said, he's been there from day one. Very hard to do that coming in March and having that kind of impact later on.
Blake Griffin being an old guy is so funny to me.
It's wild.
Okay, let's talk about let's just hypothetically, if Ja Morant does not come back for his team in the postseason, how far do you think that this team can go in the playoffs?
They're probably losing in the first round, honestly. When you look at those teams at the bottom of the West standings in the playoff picture, the Clippers, the Mavericks, the Warriors, maybe the Lakers, like there's teams with big-time talent there that it's going to be tough for Memphis to beat. The other thing, too, real quick, you look at that initial graphic, Suns with 29 losses, Kings, Grizzlies with 26 losses. There's a chance the Suns get to 2. And if they get to 2, then you certainly like their chances of getting to the Western Conference Finals. So that's something to watch here down the stretch, too. Can Phoenix catch up to Memphis and Sacramento, make that race for 2 and 3 a lot more interesting?
Christine, stars win in the postseason. Memphis has a star in Ja. He's not out there. If he can't be out there, I think they're 1 round and out.
All right, Tim, you mentioned Phoenix. KD and Kyrie went head-to-head for the first time since they both got traded, and that game went down to the wire.
Since 2007, when I stepped into the league, I feel like every game in Dallas has been like this.
An 8-second difference in the game in shot clocks. Durant driving and Hardaway. Pull-up jumper. Durant got it. Phoenix has a 2-point lead.
We had to, be locked in all the way to the last possession.
Down to 11 seconds left. Doncic driving, getting deep, creating space. Missed the shot. Did Devin Booker and Doncic go face to face?
You guys say you don't want everybody to be friendly. There you go. We got some smoke.
It's all good. Just next time, don't wait till it's 3 seconds left to talk.
I love a chippy moment. Okay, so that was just one of several games that went down to the wire of the weekend. It got us thinking playoff matchups we'd love to see. So let's play a game of hypotheticals, and we start with the Mavs and the Suns. So if Sunday's game was a glimpse of what's to come, then it could be really good. There's like a little rivalry brewing there, as we already saw. Nick, what do you see being the biggest storyline in a Mavs-Suns Western Conference playoff series?
Christine, this is one that's way too easy. It's Kevin versus Kyrie. It's the Brooklyn reunion. But the key to me is when you look at Phoenix and the rhythm they're putting together as a group, I think that they would blow past Dallas in this series because for as good as Luka and Kyrie can be offensively, what did everybody say when that deal went down?
Yeah.
Or when are the Mavericks going to defend?
Right.
How are they going to defend anybody? Well, guess what? They've had a problem defending. And Timmy B, when you look at this potential series, who in the world is going to guard Kevin Durant and Devin Booker
Nobody.
And make it work?
Nobody. I mean, they're a better version of Dallas, right? I mean, these
Absolutely.
two teams, you saw that on Sunday. These two teams are the same team, except that the 2 guys on Phoenix, when healthy, are clearly better than the 2 guys on Dallas because Kyrie is not on the level of the other 3 guys. And you mentioned it. The Mavericks don't guard anybody. And the Suns also have DeAndre Ayton, who I think would be the X factor in that series. He didn't get a lot of shots in Sunday's game, but he had 16 rebounds, was all over the glass at both ends, and Dallas couldn't do anything with him. We've seen them rotate through with JaVale McGee, Dwight Powell, Christian Wood. None of those guys could do anything with DeAndre Ayton. So, yeah, I think if this is a series in the first round, I think it's going to be pretty short. Though, again, we talked about Nick cursing the Knicks. This is the all-former Nets series, so Knicks fans, this might be what you have in your future. We'll see what happens.
Come on now.
Okay, let's go over to the Eastern Conference, and we're talking 76ers Celtics for this one. You get Embiid and Harden against Tatum and Brown. How do you think that these 2 teams match up against one another in this one? Nick, I'll start with you.
Boston is just a cut above where Philly is. Christine, Joel Embiid is one of Timmy Bontemps' favorite players in the league. We know what he can do potentially game to game. I just think Boston, top to bottom, is a better group. I am still not sold that we are going to see the James Harden we've seen at times during the regular season, during the postseason. I think that Boston, if they can find their rhythm going into this series with Tatum and Brown and the defense that they have shown in the past they're able to play, is just a little bit better than whatever Embiid and company could provide.
So there's a lot of things here. You see that number at the bottom of the screen. Boston's up 3-0 in this series over the course of the season, right? This is a bad matchup for the Philadelphia 76ers. It always has been. Al Horford has always been a very tricky guy for Joel Embiid throughout his career. They have a ton of physical perimeter, offensive talent that Philly is not really equipped to guard. James Harden's been fantastic this year, really throughout the course of the year. But as we saw on Saturday night, again on ABC, going back to that Sixers-Bucks game, Philly matches up really, really well with Milwaukee. And the significant thing about this week, when Boston lost those overtime games to the Knicks on Sunday and to the Cavs on Monday, they're now 3 back in the loss column of the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks are almost guaranteed now to be the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. To me, that means the Bucks are the heavy favorites to win the championship. It also means that we're looking at this Sixers-Celtics series coming down the pike for the second round, and that is, to me, the worst-case scenario for Philly. They wanted to get a crack at Milwaukee. Maybe they could get Milwaukee. I think they had a real puncher's chance there. Like Nick said, styles make fights. The style here is really, really bad for Philly. I think they'd have a lot of trouble in a series with the Celtics.
All right, let's talk about the Grizzlies once again and that growing rivalry out west with them and the Warriors. I mean, you got the young Grizz and the storied vet Warriors and all the trash talk that's been going, chirping on Twitter and all that stuff. So if these two teams meet in the postseason, do you think that the Grizzlies will be able to beat the Warriors?
No, and no. Christine, you can bring Ja back right now. I am not putting my money against Steph Curry and Draymond and Clay when they're not only motivated to show everybody they can still do it at a high level, but Timmy B, to beat that team in this moment, no way, all Warriors for me.
I think the Warriors are still going to get out of the West and go back to the finals. I trust them over all these other teams in the West for all the reasons Nick said. Even with Ja Morant is back, we saw last year the Grizzlies couldn't get this done. I think their half-court offense is going to be a problem in the playoffs. I don't think they're beating Golden State under any circumstances.
All right, well, there's another matchup that we're really excited to see. It's actually happening, and it is between the Mavs and the Pels.
3, 2, 1, check, wait.
I do not miss.
Luka Doncic has never had a teammate as dynamic as Kyrie Irving.
Got it for three. Finally, a sidekick who lifts a little pressure.
Ahead of the curve. For me to put pen down the paper, you gotta show me that you know what I'm worth.
Ingram.
Star players, good young players. The Pelicans have all of the ingredients.
Nothing to think about, I'ma be great. Most of you don't wanna do what it takes.
Rejected by Hayes. Here's McCollum. Got it.
I think he has a new goal.
Kyrie Irving, welcome to the party.
I do not miss. I do not miss. I do not miss. Hey.
All right, it's time for our main attraction. As I mentioned, the Mavs taking on the Pels in Nolans. That guy, Luka the Don. Hopefully not going to get chippy with any guys out there tonight. We'll see what the Mavs are able to do in this matchup. And before we get into the game, I want to send a special shout out to the crew working tonight's broadcast. It's, of course, International Women's Day. And we have an all-women-led Mavs versus Pelicans broadcast. Beth Mowens, Doris Burke, and Cassidy Hubbard calling the game. Shout out to all those amazing women who are fan favorites, obviously, and look good while they do it. All right, let's talk about this matchup a little bit. Can Kyrie and Luka, let's just talk big picture here. Do you think that Kyrie and Luka can bring a championship to Dallas?
No. I don't, and I'm not sure this is going to be a marriage that lasts longer than the next few months until Kyrie potentially can hit free agency this summer. We've seen this many times. Nick just experienced it in Brooklyn. You can't win, in my opinion, with Kyrie Irving. I think there's too much baggage that comes with it, too much controversy, too much drama. We've seen it time and again. Yes, he won in Cleveland, playing with arguably the greatest player of all time, having a miraculous comeback against the Warriors with a lot of things breaking their way. I think at the end of the day, I did not like Dallas making the big risk on Luka, having this be the guy to pair with Luka. Maybe it will work, but this, we go back to the beginning of the show. This team is a lot like the Carmelo Knicks. They traded all their pieces to get Kyrie. Now they don't have any defense. They don't have any way to really build around these guys. I just don't think it's going to end very well.
Christine, get ready to see a lot of Mark Cuban cutaway shots where he just looks sick. Because they went all in to make that move, and it's just not going to pay dividends.
Yeah.
And I agree with my man, Mr. Bontemps here. When you look at the way this offseason plays out, I don't see how Kyrie, who only seemed to want to go to L.A. in the first place, is going to go, you know what, guys, I think I'm good here. I can make it happen. Now, Mark Cuban wants to give him all that money. Hey,
I was going to say that
anything is possible.
5 years, about
anything's possible.
5 years is about 260 million reasons why he might stay.
But Mark Cuban didn't make all his money by making moves that didn't feel like they were going to hold up well in the long term. That is not one I would want to make. I don't believe in this Mavericks team at all. I feel like this matchup is a go back and forth between what might have been in the Western Conference.
True.
Okay, so what do you think that a successful, what is the Mavs at the end of the season? This would be a success. What do you think that is for the Mavs?
Win a couple rounds, get back to the conference finals again, and convince Kyrie to stay. I mean, you're probably talking about something like that. I mean, this isn't a move that you make to try to just make the playoffs or win a couple games in the playoffs. This team made the Western Conference Finals last year. And again, to go back to the beginning of the show, this is all about Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson leaving is what led the Mavs to this point. It's caused them to fall down the standings. They panicked to go get Kyrie Irving because the talent wasn't good enough. And now here they sit with a team that's fighting to get out of the play-in and is going to be an underdog in the first round.
Simple. The only way this can be a successful season for the Mavs is if they win at a level where they get to the conference finals and beyond.
Right there, doing their thing.
If you have watched the Mavs, how could anybody feel good about that?
No.
This seems like a disjointed team. This seems like a team that doesn't defend well enough. And this seems like a team that just isn't built for success.
Well, we saw it on Sunday.
Playoffs.
They play Phoenix. Phoenix is just a better version of them.
Yeah.
That's already one team. That's before you talk about the Warriors or any of these other teams. They're just not going to be good enough, I don't think.
All right, well, we'll see what they do tonight against the Pels. Guys, our show's over. That was a good time, right?
It was a great time.
Love it. All right, thanks for watching Hoop Streams. Go watch the game. We'll see you guys next week. Maybe not this team, but some version of this squad. We'll still have a good time. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.